What are the highest population density places in the US? Well, some of them are in places you'd expect, but some of them absolutely aren't. Today we're exploring all over the country looking for the locations that pack the most people into the smallest area, and we're going to get very granular, almost down to the city block. So that's going to be fun, but this is also going to be an exploration of why density matters and what it gets you. And when I say viewer suggestions are always welcome, here's what I mean. Person joined my Patreon earlier this month, messaged me, yo, is this where I submit video ideas? 4 words in, the topic hooked me, so here we are. Patron loves where they live on the Upper West Side. They love living near Trader Joe's, but they've had it with the weather and want some help doing some census analysis to plan their next move. Well, this is not an Excel tutorial channel, but it is a channel where I like to discuss my methodology and leave lots of useful links down the description, including online maps where you can just browse through different cities and answer your own questions. But let's talk about what I actually did for this video. What I wanted to find was the population density of every census tract in the US so I could sort them from highest to lowest. So let's back up a little and talk about what a census tract is. It's the most basic unit of census analysis. They're generally designed so that each one represents a geographic area with a population of between roughly 1,000 and 8,000 people, with the map being revisited every 10 years and tracts split or merged when population grows or declines significantly. You can get smaller, like census block groups or even blocks, but the data starts getting wonky the more granular you get, and as you're going to see, the census tract level is going to be plenty specific for what we're talking about. As you might have guessed at this point, census tracts in dense urban areas are going to be much smaller than those in suburban or rural areas. And since you're wondering, there are 85,158 tracts in the US, which, if you multiply by the average population of 4,000, gets you roughly the population of the United States. I joined the GeoInfo dataset, which has the areas of the census tracts and the population from the P1 table of the 2020 census, calculated population per square mile for all 85,158 census tracts, and ranked them from highest to lowest. That's the basis for today's ranking, but I'm going to do it by city, so this is going to be the top 10 metro areas in order of how dense their densest census tract is. And to give you an example of what this looks like, I'll give you number 11, Philadelphia. This is Census Tract 8.06, which is bounded by Broad and 16th, and Spruce and Walnut. Densest census tract in the city at 97,000 people per square mile. Just for reference, I always think of Dhaka, Bangladesh as the densest big city, but that's only 87,000 people per square mile. I think the actual answer is Manila proper, which clocks in at 115,000 per square mile, so every location on today's list has higher density than Dhaka, and most of them are going to be denser than Manila too. I want to back check some of these with walk score metrics, and you know Center City, Philadelphia is practically off the charts. Tract 8.06 is particularly good for transit too. Stations on the Broad Street line and the Patco right on the edges. Okay, so this is sort of a top 10, but I'm going to talk about way more than just 10 locations, so let's just keep it rolling. And number 10, we're going to start with a metro area you aren't going to be surprised to see here, but the location itself, maybe. This is actually the only metro area in the top 10 where the densest place is not in the central city. We're in Arlington, Virginia, in the Ballston neighborhood. The street views are going to be pretty telling on all of these for the sheer amount of residential density, and some of these you'll get good pedestrian activity in the street view. Might depend what time of day the Google car drove by. Transit access, you've got the Ballston MU metro station just a block outside the census tract. This is the 319th densest tract in the US, and 2 others in the top 1,000 are in Arlington as well. There's one in Fairfax, and 7 of the top 1,000 are in DC proper, with the densest being 52.03 right around Logan Circle. Again, our number 10 metro area had the 319th densest census tract in the US, and that just means that every other entry on this list is going to have at least one census tract that is denser, sometimes several, and maybe even sometimes hundreds, so get ready. We're not quite at that level yet, but number 9 is wild. We're in Madison, Wisconsin, home of the nation's 303rd most population-dense census tract, south end of downtown, State Langdon area, centered on University Avenue. If we drop into Street View, it doesn't necessarily look denser than Ballston, but I backchecked this a couple different ways. I think it's right. One thing to consider is college students tend to utilize square footage pretty efficiently, and we are pretty close to the University of Wisconsin. Do not ask me if this census tract has a Chiba Hut toasted subs because you already know the answer. Sadly, no insomnia cookies in tract 16.03. You have to cross into a completely different census tract for that. By the way, this is not a fluke. Madison has 2 census tracts in the top 1,000. 8. Boston. Suffolk County features 11 of the top 1,000 tracts, and the most packed is 104.04, which is the 231st densest tract in the US, and we are now over 100,000 people per square mile. Location is interesting. We're a bit outside of downtown and Back Bay in the Fenway-Kenmore area. The urban form is aesthetically pleasing. No high-rises, just very densely packed 4-story multifamily everywhere. Kind of a great census tract. You've got these low-traffic streets with tons of residential. Kind of the picture you'd see next to the dictionary entry for urbanism. And then the commercial is over on the east edge of the tract along Huntington, where there's even higher density residential. Also, Green Line stop at Symphony Station, right at the track's northeast corner, and we are right across the street from Northeastern University, but sadly, no cookie shop. Next up, you'll occasionally hear that it's actually counterintuitively LA that is our densest city, and I'm sure that it's true at some obscure level of analysis, but it's a level that literally no one cares about and it doesn't pass the smell test whatsoever. Regardless, LA does have 28 of the 1,000 densest census tracts in the US, including number 205, which I don't know why I found this surprising, but it is right in the heart of downtown LA. And I like downtown LA. It's always a work in progress, but the bones are so good. Incredible old Art Deco building stock. You will come face to face with basically every socioeconomic stratum that exists in LA, which I kind of think of as a pro. You've got cool stuff like this Spring Arcade, extremely walkable, and you're just a block off Pershing Square where you can catch the B line or the D line. 6. Another interesting one. Honolulu has 11 of the 1,000 densest census tracts in the US, and the city's number 1 is tract 42.01, which is the 187th densest in the nation. It's a super block on the northeast edge of what I think is the oldest part of the city's street grid, so the tract isn't classic urbanism in itself, but extremely adjacent. The densest part of Honolulu, not yet connected to the new Skyline heavy rail system. It's going to be at least 2031 before the alignment makes its way into downtown and Chinatown. But the city does have one of America's per capita highest ridership bus systems, and you're going to get a very strong walk score rating. 5. It's a bit surprising to find Seattle this high on the list, and the city does only have 2 of the 1,000 densest census tracts in the US, but 53.04 is 132nd on that list with 125,000 people per square mile, so we're now denser than the city of Manila. Where is 53.04? I was kind of expecting like Belltown or South Lake Union, and that's basically where Seattle's second densest census tract is. But number 1, we have to go out to my old stomping grounds, the University District, West Campus, and this is student housing central. Like Madison, these are people who live in close quarters. Not my favorite location in the U District, but this is a highly walkable area. Tons of amenities nearby, and it's just a couple blocks to the U District Link station. 4, another one that's a little unexpected until you really look at it. Miami-Dade County is home to 10 tracts in the top 1,000, and the leader is 67.21 in Brickell, just south of downtown proper. This is the 83rd most packed census tract in the nation. Brickell is legit very dense with bustling streets, a metro station, and multiple metro mover stations. Mostly very walkable, Brickell Avenue itself is a bit of a strode for my taste, but what can you say? welcome to Florida urbanism. No Chiba Hut, but there is an outlet of the world's least annoying steakhouse, so let's copy the street address and check the stats. And yeah, I stayed right around here when I did my city visit, and this actually looks about right. Okay, we're actually at the point of the video where you're supposed to guess what the top three are and in what order, but the reality is I've still got like 15 or 20 locations I'm going to talk about. By the way, Census Tract 1.01 in Lexington, Kentucky. Not particularly population dense, but on March 3rd, we'll have a pretty high density of people who want to nerd out on transportation and land use planning. Not sure what the ticket availability is at this point, but check the QR code or the link down the description. Okay, honorable mentions. There are actually only 3 other metro areas represented among the top 1,000 densest census tracts, besides the top 10 in Philadelphia. Austin, Texas is home to number 671. It's in West University, tract 6.08, tons of dense residential, and yes, the count does tend to happen when school is in session, if you're wondering. Related, the 937th densest census tract in America is in East Lansing, Michigan, and it's literally on the campus of Michigan State University. Like, this doesn't even look like that dense of a location, but I'm sure the persons per square foot metric is in, like, Kowloon walled city territory. Likewise, the last metro area with the 515th densest and also smallest census tract in the US, Rochester, New York. This is also a cramped living conditions situation. It's tract 94.03, which is exclusively devoted to the Monroe County Jail. So this is one situation where you might actually hope for less population density. Okay, that was kind of dark. You know, for dishonorable mentions, I was going to do like the least population dense census tract in the US, but places like that are extremely boring in Google Earth and probably boring in real life too. So what I want to give you instead is the most mid-census tract in the US, like literally the median, ranked number 42,579 out of 85,158 in terms of density. And that's tract 537.12 in Raleigh, North Carolina, 2,170 people per square mile. One way to think of this is the kind of built environment the median American lives in, and honestly, it's not for me, but I don't hate it. Like, I could probably live in one of these multifamily units. There's a bookstore, there's a vegan cafe, there's a TJ's. Anyway, consider this the baseline against which you can measure everything else I'm showing you today. Next up, number 3, the San Francisco metro area, home to 32 of the top 1,000 tracts. This includes Alameda County, tract 4228, along the south edge of the Berkeley campus, but the vast majority of the 32 tracts are in San Francisco proper. The location of the densest one might not be intuitive. It's in the Tenderloin, tract 125.02, just 4 blocks bounded by Ellis, Taylor, Turk, and Leavenworth. And this is, apparently, the 5th densest census tract in the US. Now, you'll notice as we tour the area, there isn't that much height. There's a lot of 4-story, and I think this Alexander residence is the tallest structure in the tract, around 12 stories. But consider, as you look at the building stock, the vintage from back when they jammed as many units as possible into buildings. The whole Tenderloin is a bit of a throwback. It's kind of the West Coast version of New York's Lower East Side. Great proximity to all of the amenities of downtown San Francisco, and you're a block off Market Street, the transit spine of the whole city. 2, if you guessed Chicago, you're right, and it is home to literally the second densest census tract in the US, but it might not be in the location you'd think. We actually have to go up to Edgewater in the far north side, home of Cook County Tract 307.02, which basically consists of 2 enormous high-rise residential complexes. I believe these are all condos, the Edgewater Plaza and the Park Tower, and if you watched my Chicago video, you actually get a glimpse of them as I pan down to the traffic sewer abomination that is DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Incredible and actually diverse neighborhood once you get a couple blocks west, and great access to the newly renovated stations on the Red Line L. Chicago has 22 other entries in the top 1,000, and I'll just give you the second for variety's sake. Tract 811 in the near north side, a long rectangle bounded by State, Chicago, Dearborn, and Division. Probably more like what I was envisioning as a maximally dense Chicago location. Just such a great city, and I can't wait to go back. So number one is New York, and when it comes to density, the New York metro area is an absolute outlier in the US to a level that I find absolutely fascinating. So we're going to spend a bit of time here before I show you the number one most population dense census tract in the US. 861 of the 1,000 densest tracts in the country are in the New York City area. 29 of them are in New Jersey, the densest of those being Hudson County Tract 31.01 in Jersey City, which definitely looks the part. Westchester County Tract 88.02 up in White Plains gets in on the act as well, and also passes the eye test. And believe it or not, all 5 boroughs of New York City are represented in the top 1,000. That's right, Staten Island shows up twice, the densest tract being 40.03, literally the Wu-Tang Clan district, something I didn't even realize existed, so now I think I know my first stop when I come to town in April. 172 of the top 1,000 are in the Bronx, including number 20, tract 21.02 just off the Grand Concourse, which is a bit of an urban strode, but the built environment and housing typologies here are absolutely proper New York. And the transit access is phenomenal. You've got a BD station right on the northeast corner of the tract, and a 4 station just a block off. Brooklyn, or Kings County for census purposes, actually the most heavily represented county in the top 1,000 with 285 entries. The densest is 531.02, basically the north side of Flushing Avenue between Bedford and Marcy. Just classic stuff. South Williamsburg, I guess, but also right across the street from Marcy houses. Someone should make a video about the correlation between population density and cultural contribution. Queens County, home of 137 entries in the top 1,000, and the third densest census tract in the US, number 455. Feels like we're deep in the Robert Moses era of city building right here. Tall residential blocks surrounded by parking and abutting a freeway. Okay, let's go to the actual number one, the most population dense census tract in America. New York County, 154.03 in the Upper East Side, really Yorkville, bounded by 91st and 94th Streets and 2nd and 3rd Avenues. I've got 287,000 people per square mile here, and if you're a city person with a few $1,000 a month to drop on like a 500 square foot studio, this is probably for you. I could actually make a whole video on just these 3 blocks. The Yorkville Towers are kind of the centerpiece. They have their own Wikipedia page. They're calling it New Brutalism. It opened as a mix of co-op and middle-income rental units. Most of the complex has now been converted to market-rate condos. Also, we're right on top of the relatively new 2nd Avenue subway. Wasn't sure exactly where on Manhattan we'd find the nation's densest location, but in terms of narrative, I'm pretty happy with this one. And before we leave, let's head a mile or so south and check in on Tract 120, home of Hunter College, where I'll be doing a show on April 24th. Lots of institutional land use, obviously, so this tract actually sits just outside the top 1,000 at 1,033 on the list. Still puts it in the 98th percentile, super dense housing where it does exist in the tract, and it's right on top of Hunter College Station on the Lexington Avenue line, so tremendous access for those of you who are coming out in April. Honestly, I'm a pretty niche internet celebrity, so when I do get recognized in public, it's usually fine. The people who watch my channel tend to be pretty kindred spirits who care about the same kind of things I care about. But I've probably been lucky because I definitely know YouTubers who have been doxxed and harassed and stalked in kind of disturbing personal ways. You don't have to be niche famous though, it can happen to anyone. We live in a time where it seems like people's personal information is more accessible than ever. For example, did you know that your personal information gets sold online by data brokers? This means anyone can buy your personal information. Well, I think we all have the right to stay private and protect our personal data, and that's where today's sponsor, Delete Me, comes in. Delete Me's mission is simple: to remove the customer's information from search results. You set up a personal profile, and then Delete Me experts go to work removing your personal data from search engines and data broker sites. After 7 days, you get a detailed report that tells you what they found, which might make your jaw hit the floor, and what they removed, including the specific websites and how much traffic they get. And Delete Me stays on top of things all year long. They continue to monitor and remove your data, and you get follow-up reports every few months. My most recent, they reviewed 542 listings and removed 9. It's all about keeping your personal information private, and the results I've seen are why I trust Delete Me to keep my internet profile low. Also, pro tip, depending on your living situation, getting a family plan might be the move. Let's just say that when someone buys your data from a broker, they naturally end up getting a lot of information about your loved ones too, and vice versa. So, if you're concerned about your personal data wandering around in the wilds of the internet, consider buying some peace of mind. Get 20% off Delete Me consumer plans when you go to joindeleteme.com/CityNerd and use the promo code CityNerd at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/CityNerd, code CityNerd. And that's all I've got. Thanks for joining today, and thanks as always to the patrons for your direct support, and the Nebula subscribers. Just makes it possible for me to do a job that sometimes is just way more fun than it has any business being. Really enjoyed making today's episode. Anyway, keep the great topic suggestions coming. I'll be back with a new episode probably next week, and I'll see you then. Thanks again to Delete Me for sponsoring this video. To get your data removed from the internet, check out Delete Me via my link down the description and get 20% off.